Do you think that you might be able to play up if you wanted to? Like if you wanted to play JV, you think you're ready for something like that?
Yeah, I think I would be ready. Just gotta play harder.
Okay. Why would you not want to play JV? Would you want to play JV?
It really wouldn't matter.
Okay.
We got a Zion Williamson, 8th grader, being interviewed after one of his basketball games and is asked if he would want to go play JV his freshman year. And it says ultimately it doesn't really matter to him. But this man was not only thinking about playing varsity, but being an absolute dominating force at it as well. Zion Williamson is one of the 3 NBA2K21 cover athletes, alongside Damian Lillard and legend cover athlete Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. 19 games played in his entire career, and he's already been given the opportunity to become an NBA 2K cover athlete. Now granted, he has all the tools to become the future of the NBA, but NBA 2K really seems to have already declared him the next up. It's not just 2K though. The NBA has easily bought into Zion's game because of the revenue the league generates from a guy who has easily dominated his entire road up to the NBA. Let's face it, there are a plethora of players who easily should have been already cover athletes if we're talking about straight basketball talent and success in the league, including Kawhi Leonard, 2-time champ and 2-time Finals MVP, Russell Westbrook, 2017 MVP, and Luka Doncic, and rising 1-time All-Star and a risen superstar, and Karl Anthony Towns and Devin Booker for the sake of it. All of them are easily more proven than Zion Williamson and all have valid reasons for being on the cover of the game. But what separates Zion Williamson is being Zion Williamson. So let's take a look into what made Zion a profiting genius. Hey everyone, DC NBA Junkie here, and today I'll be discussing why Zion Williamson is different from the majority of the league and why the NBA is investing in him so early on. Let's get to it. But before I begin, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment how you feel about Zion Williamson becoming one of the cover athletes of 2K21. Now, without further ado, let's take a look into Zion Williamson's start to an impressive basketball career. Right from the jump, Zion was an absolute powerhouse, starting in high school and in college, weighing 285 pounds and standing 6'6", just unlike any other. If you look at a body mass index calculator and you calculate those stats, he's technically supposed to be considered obese, but if you've seen the amount of muscle that man has on there, it's only understandable why his frame has led to so much basketball success. His agility and explosiveness is just like no other at that height and at that frame. It almost reminds me of Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson, 2 NBA basketball players who are all really talented at the game by using their size and their bodies to dominate at the game. He would go on to average 32 points per game and 11 rebounds from all 4 years of playing varsity basketball in high school and being a consensus 5-star recruit and winning 3 straight state championships, and would eventually sign with Duke University. At Duke University, Zion Williamson would average 22 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, and 2 assists per game in his only year at Duke University, and he would receive the ACC Player of the Year, the ACC Athlete of the Year, the ACC Rookie of the Year, and was the AP Player of the Year, and would defeat UNC in the ACC tournament and become the tournament champions. Though let's not forget that he got locked up there by Taco Fall in the National March Madness tournament against UCF for sure. Zion and only just 2 other players in college basketball history would go on in a single season to produce 500 points, 50 steals, and 50 blocks. And those 2 other players were Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis. I mean, overall, it's just so clear that this kid at only 6'6", but weighing 285 pounds of pure muscle and mostly muscle and strength, just makes his game so unique of how quickly and his agility works and how fast he can jump up and down multiple times in a possession, and it's just unlike any other athlete we've ever seen. And especially just how he's been able to do it since a young age and how it's translated already to the NBA, and him being able to go in his first game and leap over players for rebounds and strip the ball from players and throw down these physical dunks is just so unique and really an intriguing game to watch from Zion Williamson. And his game was just so unique and special that he was a clear #1 pick. And when the New Orleans Pelicans won the draft lottery in 2019, it was just clear that he was going to be the #1 pick and was selected by them with the first pick, averaging 23.6 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists already in the NBA. There's a reason why all these big companies were working to try to get Zion on a shoe deal, and the NBA is so invested in Zion being in the playoffs and trying to incorporate Zion into more games because of the impact he has on these big corporations, which is why the NBA is working so hard to get the Pelicans in the playoffs. In January 20th of 2019, he suffered a knee sprain in which his foot ripped right through a Nike Paul George shoe. And the next day, Nike's stock from that injury, from that shoe tear, would drop $1.1 billion. That's right, $1.1 billion just from Zion's injury from the national stage. It was a big drop from for Nike's stock, but they took a big hit for sure. It just shows you how this man has just been a big part of corporations because of his fame and his value to these corporations, being so young and being so talented. The only person that's been as hyped up as Zion has been in recent years is LeBron James, and I can see why these corporations are working so hard to include him because of the revenue he generates for the league. He generates money. People want to watch Zion Williamson. In 2K, people will buy the game if they're seeing Zion on the cover. They're promoting these younger athletes. People believe that that's their role models they want to look up to, and he's just the human highlight reel. I don't know if there's any other way to say it. Zion Williamson is just one of the most intriguing players that we've ever seen in the game, especially not just based off talent, but what he's been able to do outside of the game with his shoe deals and the other, all the brand deals and contracts he has with other corporations, and how it's already been so financially stable just at 19 years old. Aside from that big Nike fiasco involving Zion and that ripping the shoe, the NBA has given the Pelicans one of, if not the easiest 8 games, one of the easiest remaining 8 game schedules in the league. And they gave the Grizzlies, who are the 8th seed, one of the most difficult 8 game schedules remaining, which just kind of shows you how much the NBA is working to try to get the Pelicans into the playoffs, or to play against the Grizzlies in a little round matchup to try to get into the playoffs. While the Grizzlies got a really difficult schedule, are going to have to work really hard to maintain their 8th seed and trying to stay away from teams like the Pelicans, who have been given one of the easiest schedules in the league. I mean, trust me, the league isn't trying to just get Zion into these 8 games. That's not the only reason why they just included all 22 games. They're not trying to just do it to include some players just for the 8 games, but specifically for Zion and the Pelicans, in these 8 games, they're not trying to just get them through those. They're trying to also get them into the NBA playoffs and playing so they can generate more revenue. It's because the revenue that Zion generates is insane. He did it ever since his first game to the Spurs, all up until the last game he was able to play before the league ended. He's just one of those kind of guys. He brings the action to the game. He brings all the highlights, and people want to watch him. He's one of those guys that's a must-see player. And like I said before, he brings in the money. But drawing back to the reason why I feel like Zion's on this cover, and just not necessarily just the cover is just kind of a glimpse of all the opportunities Zion's been given. It's just because the league is trying to make money right now. They are in a situation where they're looking like they're going to lose $1 billion in revenue from this NBA season being ended. So they're trying to bring the season back, but they're also looking to generate the most revenue from this period as possible. And one of the best ways to do it was bringing Zion into the playoffs. Now, if you ask me, I think the main reason why 22 teams are going to play for the resumption of the NBA season is because they wanted to include players like Zion Williamson into these playoffs, or into at least these final 8 games, to generate the most amount of revenue they can get, especially because they know that he wasn't included, so they're trying to get that maximum revenue that they can receive. I know it seems like a pretty sellout kind of thing, and it is, but the league is just working to recover as much financially from this season and trying to make as much profit as they can from this period, so it at least gives them some sort of benefit from resuming the season rather than just for the sake of the players. And it's unfortunate, but I just feel like at least we're getting a season, and it doesn't hurt to get Zion Williamson. This is not making me mad. It's good to see Zion Williamson. I just feel bad, and it kind of sucks for those teams that were working so hard, especially like the Grizzlies and the other tough teams that have tough schedules, who have to fight through them, especially if they weren't given a tough schedule to finish off the season prior, when the NBA was originally their original schedule. Maybe they had an easier schedule, and now they have a tougher schedule. I've heard, that there are some teams that had that case go on, and there's some teams like the Pelicans who are handed easier schedules right now, and the biggest reason for it is to give them the best chance they have to get into the NBA playoffs. Overall, I think Zion Williamson's performance, granted, throughout all the games he was able to play in the NBA, has been really impressive, especially for a guy who was given a lot of hate for his injury, and a lot of questioning as to whether or not he'd be able to come in and play at the level that he was anticipated to play at. And I think he's exceeded that, and that's really great for him, especially for the league. Not only for the league, but just for himself and improving the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans have a great team, and Zion Williamson, his incorporation onto the team has been really special. But as for the big corporations, the money comes from him being not only a great athlete, but being must-watch. The highlights, the dunks, the big strip plays, and all the defensive highlights, the blocks, like all that is just, he does it so effortlessly, and I think it's just something we just haven't ever seen to his extent. He's doing something that we've never seen before, in my opinion. We've seen athletic players in the league, do these kind of things, but not at the consistency and at the rate that Zion does it. At his frame and his weight too, it just doesn't seem like it should make sense. You don't see Charles Barkley jumping, having one of the best verticals in the league. He never had that, although he weighed a lot. But Zion Williamson, his frame, he knows how to use it, and he uses it to his advantage, and I think it's what's making him one of the best players in the league. But as for 2K and if he deserves this, I think maybe not. Maybe this wasn't his time yet, but I think for the next gen theme and idea, I think it's cool. But as for Zion Williamson, he's a very talented athlete, but his time hasn't come completely yet, and I think there were definitely, like I said, other athletes who definitely could have been offered the opportunity to be of the cover athlete for 2K. But with that being said, that'll be the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this new kind of format, feel free to drop a feedback in the comments about it and how you feel about Zion being the cover athlete of 2K21. And feel free to subscribe and like the video as well too. And yeah, with that being said, that'll be the end of today's video. Have a great day.